So, sex is this topic that isn't really talked about in the world of healing and emotional healing and, meditation and self work. Most of the time, sex is not a topic that is addressed. And I think in society in general, sex is not a topic that we talk about enough. Yes, there is porn everywhere and sex online, like even Instagram, regular girls and the sexy pictures, and sex is everywhere, which makes it even worse. Although it is everywhere in our lives, it is still the one topic that we won't talk about. And I do healing sessions with men and women and couples mainly around the topics of intimacy and sex, basically. And one of the main issues that comes up is communication. I've had couples, like men who were married for 20 years and have never talked to their wife about the sex that they have. And it becomes this weird thing that we do at night under the covers without the children hearing. And basically, the man enters the woman and comes after a few minutes, and then they go to sleep. Or they have the regular postures that they do, the missionary or whatever. They have this routine. They do it once, twice a week, whatever, how many times they do it a week. And then they don't talk about it. They don't reference it. They don't ask each other how they feel, if it was good or not. There is no healthy conversation around the topic of sex. And I think a lot of couples are like, well, we're a couple already. We're married. Obviously, we're just going to have sex. Why do we have to talk about the sex? We're just going to have the sex and just keep on and go on with our lives. Well, I think it's important that we talk about the sex, just like if we're building a house together. It's important that we talk about the design and, where the bedrooms are going to be and what we want it to look like. This is a house that we're going to be living in together. We both need to be happy about it. We need to communicate. Anything we do together as a couple requires communication. And in most areas in life, that's understandable. People know that. They talk to each other. They have conversations about all the technical, regular things in their day-to-day life, even about how they're going to raise their children. If you're raising a kid together, you need to talk about it. You need to, talk about the methods, the approach that you're going to take to this education. It's something that you talk about. Most things need to be talked about, especially when we do them together. For some reason, people don't talk about the sex that they have. And then after a while, they have this routine sex that they have that is not satisfying or sexy in any way. And then they start looking outwards, and it starts with bikinis, girls in bikinis on Instagram, and then maybe it will go from there to OnlyFans, and maybe private video chats on OnlyFans, and then maybe even other women. And it's not because the person is, the cheating man. It's not because he's bad or mean or wants to hurt his wife. It's because he's not satisfied sexually, and he has no way of communicating this to his wife. He has no way of talking to her about it. Maybe because he feels guilty. Maybe because, he's not attracted to her anymore. Maybe there could be a million different reasons. But from the shame and embarrassment, he won't talk to his wife about it. And instead, he'll go to other women. Thankfully, a lot of them come to me and I become the other woman, but it's without any kind of sexual relations, and it's a healing process. So talk to me about your sexual experiences with your wife, see my reactions, how I talk about it with you. And then a lot of the times they do feel more comfortable talking to their wife about it. And suddenly they realize oh my God, how did I not talk to her about the sex we're having? And it makes such a difference, and something opens up between us, and the communication. Again, it's before and after sex. I don't really think we need to communicate that much while we're having the sex. But if we can talk about it before, if we can talk about it afterwards, if we can share our experiences and our emotions that came up during the sexual, but we don't do that. We don't talk about it. Sometimes women talk with other women about sex. Sometimes men talk with other men about sex. A lot of the time, you'll be surprised to hear, I've talked to women and men who have not talked to anyone about their sex life ever. And then you can understand why we have so many dysfunctions in this area. And then, you know, despite all the dysfunctions we have in that area, we're still not talking about it. So if there is one tantric tip that I would give people, is to start to talk about the sex you're having with the person you're having the sex with. If that seems like too scary, too intimidating, find someone, a therapist, a healer, whatever, find someone who you can open up to about your sex until you feel comfortable enough talking about it so that you can talk to your partner about it. And I don't know, in my world, in Tantra, like, the person you're having sex is obviously going to be the person you're most comfortable talking to about the sex, because you're so intimate. Like, and if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone who you have sex with about the sex you're having with them, maybe you shouldn't have sex with them, because something is wrong there. There is not enough intimacy. There is not enough honesty. There is not enough authenticity. Because if you can't have an honest conversation about a very intimate and emotional experience you're having with someone else, maybe you shouldn't be having that experience with them. And if you do want to have that experience with them and you want it to get better and better with time, which it can get, you need to start talking to them about it. I understand bringing up the topic of sex can be embarrassing. As you see, for me, it's not embarrassing, because I grew up in a very dysfunctional family and I had very immature parents. And my dad used to talk to me about his sex my whole life. And I don't think that's okay, but it's just what it was. And ever since I can remember myself, I was very open about the topic. I was very like, let's talk about it. I would just talk about it with people. And I remember like walking down the street with a friend of mine talking about sex. And she was like, shh, don't let anyone hear us. And I was like, why? They all have sex too. Why shouldn't we talk about this topic? And the way that I got into Tantra was actually talking to people about sex. And I always felt very comfortable with that, with people in general and the people that I have the sex with. And I understand that that is a gift and that is something that I have been blessed with. And although it came from a dysfunctional father-daughter relationship, it did lead to, you know, this healing that I do and give to other people. And I think that's amazing. So also, alchemy is transmuting a bad experience into a good one. And we're not responsible for the bad experiences we had as children, but as adults, we can be the ones responsible for transmuting and transforming those experiences into good things in our lives, into tools, into knowledge, into authenticity, and with me, the ability to be able to talk to people about very, very intimate and embarrassing topics, but I stay very focused and present and I'm not embarrassed by it, and it helps other people feel more comfortable with themselves. So you might be the partner in the relationship who will initiate this conversation. If you do that, you're doing a huge favor to your partner, because once you open the topic and you start talking about it in a very open and authentic way, it will allow them to see you and who you really are, but it will also allow them to open up to you, because sometimes people need help. And if we're a couple and none of us are starting that conversation, it's just never going to happen. So one of us needs to be the brave one, maybe go to therapy, maybe get some help. But, you know, if you're not talking about sex with your partner, get help in opening up and start talking to them about it, and see that they will also open up and talk about it. And suddenly your entire sex life is going to change. From this one little thing of communicating, a whole new world will open up and allow you to experience more pleasure, more intimacy, more orgasms, more connection, more love. And that's what we want. I think that's definitely what I want, and I'm sure that's what you want. So communicating, having good, honest, authentic conversations around our sexual experiences is very tantric. It's very basic in Tantra, and it's very basic, if you ask me, in any kind of relationship and intimacy that we're having in our lives. So good luck with that. And you're more than welcome to subscribe to my channel and like and comment. I would love to hear from you. And I'll keep uploading videos like this around, emotional blockages and triggers and energy work that has to do specifically with sex and intimacy and relationships, because, this is an area in our life that we need a bit of help in. And I'm honored to share my information and experience and maybe assist you a little bit in your journey to authenticity and, spiritual and emotional enlightenment, which I don't think you can reach unless you've gone through the second chakra and sorted out all your sexual issues. So that's my honest opinion. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon.